Hello, it's Susan here from Komori no Hime Cosplay, and today we're going to be making the bodice for Amulet Heart from Shugo Chara. For Amulet Heart's dress, I'm using New Look 6299 as a starting point. You definitely don't have to use this particular pattern. This is just what I had on hand. And I made a test piece out of some scrap cotton so I could finalize all the changes and then use this new piece as a pattern. So this side is what it looked like originally, and this side is with all the alterations. So the most obvious is that changed it to a V-neck, and also took in the shoulder some, and it's now essentially a crop top. And since it's a crop top and not a dress, I did have to make it fit a little bit more on me. So I did add a dart at the bust and also took it in a bit under the bust since it was floating away from the body and I wanted it to be a bit more fitted. I also added some extra seam allowance in the front because it's going to have the zipper in the front instead of in the back. So now that I'm pretty happy with how all of the changes are looking, I'm going to cut this apart, and this will now be the new pattern for the top. I seam ripped apart the mock-up and pressed all the pieces flat to flatten out the seam allowance. Then I pinned them to my base fabric, and I'm just going to cut around them as the new pattern. I also used a disappearing ink pen to smooth out anywhere where it was a bit lumpy. And also I took a Sharpie and made sure to write on the pattern pieces themselves in case I decide to use them for a future project. For the fabric, I used a pink glitter cotton that I had left over from my Black Cat Sakura costume. I sewed the darts that I had added to the pattern, then zigzagged along the edges to help keep them from fraying. Sew the bodice pieces back together, then we're going to sew a basic hem along the neckline and along the bottom of the bodice, and since we're not going to be doing anything else to the armholes, I sewed a rolled hem around each of those. Putting right sides together, I sewed the pleated ribbon trim along the bottom of the bodice, leaving a space on either end for seam allowance and adding the zipper. Turn the trim over and top stitch it into place. Putting right sides together, sew the zipper to each side of the bodice opening. I'm using a separating zipper to make it easy to get on and off. Ideally, I would have liked to use a pink zipper, however, I did not have one on hand, so I'm using white instead. It's also much longer than the bodice, so I am going to have to shorten it later on. Turn the zipper right side out, and we're going to top stitch along either side. Then pull the zipper pull down, and then trim away the top. If you have the zipper pull up here, you'll end up cutting off the zipper pull, and it's an absolute pain, so the most important thing is make sure you pull this down before you cut your zipper. Then I used a pair of wire cutters and some pliers and took some of the teeth out so that I'll have some fabric that I can flip over without it getting really bulky. Then fold over the edge of the neckline one more time and top stitch into place. To finish off the bodice, I threaded a spring ring through the hole of the zipper pull and then attached the Humpty lock that I had from my Amu costume. And with that, Amulet Heart's bodice is done. For more cosplay tutorial videos, please subscribe, and thank you very much for watching!